I want to show you the stretch tool. Now stretch is kind of on the fence for me as far as being an everyday tool. I use it almost every day, but I think I probably use it a little bit more than the average person. But it's a real important tool to understand, and it can really gain you a lot of valuable time, particularly making modifications to existing stuff, making small changes. So in this first example, I've got this rectangle that's 4 by 8, and I'm wanting to change the height of it from 4 to 6. So stretch is a little particular, okay? So if you haven't already watched the selection video, you want to do that probably next. But when I pick the stretch tool and I read my command line, it says select objects, which is pretty typical for AutoCAD, but if I read the line above that, it says select objects to stretch by crossing window or crossing polygon. So that means if you don't use a crossing window or a crossing polygon, the stretch tool is not going to work for you. So you have to select the objects using one of those two methods. I prefer to use the crossing window. I hardly ever use a crossing polygon. I guess if I had some kind of weird shape that was hard to get with a rectangular window, I'd use the crossing polygon, but most of the time I can get everything I need with the crossing window. So what we want to do is we're wanting to raise this right corner up and this left corner up 2 units. So I have to be sure to enclose those in my crossing window. So I'm actually stretching the middle portion here inside of this 4. If I select the entire rectangle, I won't be able to change just the length of it. I have to actually select only these upper 2 corners, and so my crossing window goes right through these vertical lines. So I'm stretching these vertical lines and essentially moving this horizontal line at the same time. So I'm going to put my crossing window across my dimension and across my 2 corners, and I'm wanting to go up 2. So it says select objects. I'm through selecting objects, so I'm going to right click to advance the command, and here's the base point. Just like the move command, where are you picking this up by? In this case, I'm not wanting to take this to a particular spot. I'm just wanting to go up 2. So I'm going to use a base point out here in space somewhere. I'm going to be careful and select a spot that's not close to some other entities where maybe some object snaps will accidentally catch and mess me up a little bit. So I'm out here in the open. I'm going to left click to select the base point. I'm going to point my cursor the way I want to go, and I want to go straight up. So I have to be careful. It will go on an angle here if I'm not careful. So I want to be sure and use my ortho mode. So I'm going to go to the status bar and turn on the ortho mode, and now I'm going straight up, and I can only go up. So I point up with my cursor and I type the distance that I want to change, in this case, which is 2. Press the enter key, and now I've made that rectangle 6 by 8 by using the stretch command. So I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to change the length. So here I've got a 4 by 8 rectangle, and this time I'm going to change the length here from 8 to 6. So what I'm wanting to do is move these 2 right hand corners to the left 2. So I'm going to pick my stretch tool. I've got my time sensitive right mouse click set, so if I do a quick right mouse click, it'll repeat the last command. So I'm in my stretch command. AutoCAD asks me to select by crossing window. So again, I'm going to be sure my crossing window selects those 2 corners and my dimension. I can't go this far. It will not work. I have to select this line. I'm adding or removing the material from these horizontal lines here. So that's where my edge of my crossing window has to go to. So I left click there, and I'm finished selecting the objects that I want to stretch. So I'm going to right mouse click. I'm going to pick a base point that's convenient for me out where there's no object snaps that I might accidentally get on. And I'm going to move straight to the left, making sure my object or ortho mode is on. And I'm going to go to the left 2 units, type in 2. Press the enter key, and now I've shrank the length of that box. So we can make things bigger with the stretch command. We can make things smaller with the stretch command. So here's a pretty common type of roller, and I want to keep it symmetrical about the axis here, but I'm needing to make this outer diameter 10. So I need to change this 8 to 10, but I need to keep everything symmetrical, and I don't want this 4 to change. So essentially what I have to do is move these corners up and I'm going to have to actually move these corners down. So I'm going to have to do this in 2 commands. Take 2 stretches to make this happen. So right now I'm at 8 and I want to go to 10, so I'm going to go up 1 inch and I'm going to go down 1 inch, and that should give me my 10 diameter. So again, I'm going to pick my stretch tool. I'm going to be very careful with my crossing window. I'm going to get my dimension and the corners that I want to change, and if I get these corners, I'm going to increase the 2 and the 4 diameters. So I definitely don't want the 2 and I don't want to change the 4, so I want to make sure that I don't enclose the bottom corners here inside my crossing window. So my crossing window should only include those upper corners of the roller. So again, that's the only thing I want to stretch at this point. So I'm going to right mouse click to advance the command. I'm going to pick a base point. I'm going to point my cursor straight up. I'm going to type 1 with my keyboard, press the enter key, and now my roller is 9. It's not quite symmetrical, but if I do that same process downward, I'll have my 10 and it'll still be symmetrical. So I'm going to repeat my last command by hitting the enter key, the space bar, or the quick right mouse button. I'm going to drag my crossing window to include those 2 corners, those 4 corners and the dimension. I'm going to right click to advance the command. I'm going to pick a spot out here in space. I'm going to point straight downward and I'm going to type in 1 and press enter. And so now I've changed the size of that roller from 8 to 10, and I didn't make any other changes to the other parts. We can use stretch with our object snaps, so I don't really know the distance, but in this case I want to stretch this yellow rectangle. I want to take this upper right corner to the lower left corner of the green rectangle. So I don't know the distance, but I still want to stretch both corners. So I pick stretch, and if for some reason I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing and I only highlighted this one corner, and I right mouse click, base point would be that corner and then the end point would be that. The corner on the left over here stayed put, and the reason for that is because it wasn't included in my crossing window. So I'm going to undo one time, pick my stretch tool command again, and be sure I include both corners of my crossing window and go up. I'm going to undo one more time and show you if I happen to pick the stretch command and I include the entire rectangle, all 4 corners, goes up, nothing stayed put. So I essentially just moved the rectangle. I did not stretch anything, and the reason that nothing stretched is because of the way the crossing window was placed on the elements. So the proper way would be to select those corners that you want to change. My base point will be this endpoint, and I can go to there. I could do the same thing. I could cross this line. Now I don't want to stretch this yellow rectangle, so I'm going to hold the shift key in and left click on that to remove it from the selection. My base point will be here, and I'm going to place it there. So we can also use some object snaps to help us along the way. Stretch is a pretty powerful command, and it's one I hope you get your arms around. I use it quite a lot, but I think I may use it more than the average person. It's definitely a good command, and it can get you out of a jam and help you quickly make some changes to things. So understand how to select it with that crossing window, and you'll be in excellent shape. If you have any questions, give me a call or send me an email.